The marble floor was cold beneath my knees. I hadn't meant to fall, but my legs just gave out when I saw her face, when I registered the disgust pooling in my mother's eyes like oil on water. The kind that doesn't mix. The kind that repels. "Please," I whispered, and I hated how small my voice sounded in their vaulted foyer, echoing off walls lined with my childhood photographs, back when I was still worth smiling at. "I just need a few thousand to cover rent, just until I get back on my feet." My father didn't even look up from his scotch. The ice clinked against crystal, a sound I'd grown up associating with after-dinner conversations and laughter. Now it just sounded sharp. "Cutting. Back on your feet?" He swirled the amber liquid slowly, watching it catch the light from a chandelier above. "Helen, you've been on your knees for 3 years. At what point do we acknowledge you simply prefer the view from down there?" The words hit like open palms across my face. I felt my cheeks burn. Before I go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you're hooked already, a like and subscribe will keep these stories coming. My mother shifted on the ivory settee, the one she'd imported from France, the one I wasn't allowed to sit on as a child unless my hands were clean and my dress was pressed. Her fingers traced the curved armrest, back and forth, back and forth. She was nervous. Good. At least she felt something. "Richard," she said softly, not quite a protest, not quite agreement. Just my father's name, hanging in the air like a white flag she didn't have the courage to wave. "No, Diane." He finally turned to face me, and I wished he hadn't. His eyes were cold, surgical. The way he looked at failing investments. "She needs to hear this. Helen Jade Montgomery, you are 31 years old. You have a master's degree from Stanford that we paid for. You had a position at Mercer and Klein that your godfather arranged. And somehow, you managed to throw it all away for what? For that artist boyfriend who couldn't even afford to frame his own paintings. Marcus had nothing to do with. Marcus had everything to do with it." My father's voice cracked like thunder, and I flinched. He noticed. I saw the satisfaction flicker across his face. "You quit a 6-figure salary to find yourself. To write poetry in coffee shops and protest gentrification while living off our money. Well, congratulations, darling. You found yourself. And she's broke." I pulled myself up using the edge of their console table, the one holding the Tiffany lamp and fresh orchids my mother replaced every 4 days. My palm left a smudge on the polished wood. Small victories. "I didn't come here to be lectured," I said, forcing steel into my voice I didn't feel. "I came because I'm your daughter, and I thought family meant something to you." "Family." My mother finally spoke, her voice like wind chimes, delicate and hollow. "You want to talk about family, Helen? Family doesn't embarrass each other at charity galas. Family doesn't get arrested at protests that end up on the evening news. Family doesn't bring shame to a name that's meant something in this city for 4 generations. The protest. Of course. 3 weeks ago, I'd been one of 70 people arrested for blocking the demolition of the Riverside Community Center, a place that had served low-income families for decades. The place where I'd been volunteering, teaching creative writing to kids whose parents worked 3 jobs. The news had loved it. Montgomery heiress among protesters arrested. My mother's bridge club had apparently had a field day. That community center was going to be torn down to build luxury condos, I said. Condos that would have displaced 200 families. Condos that would have created jobs and increased property values, my father countered. Condos that Richard Morrison was developing, by the way. Your mother's godson. The man we were hoping you might finally take seriously now that you're single again. My stomach turned. You wanted me to date Richard Morrison? He's a slumlord who... He's a successful real estate developer with a net worth of $40 million. My father set his scotch down with deliberate care. But I can see you're not interested in success. Or propriety. Or anything that might make your family proud. The words landed like stones in my chest, heavy and suffocating. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. What could I say? That I'd quit my job because I was drowning in corporate law, defending corporations against the very people they were destroying? That Marcus hadn't corrupted me. He'd just been the first person to suggest I didn't have to live the life they'd scripted for me. That I'd rather be broke and aligned with my values than rich and complicit in systems I despised? But I knew those words would mean nothing here, in this house that smelled like money and fresh lilies and the faint bitterness of disappointment. Just a few thousand, I tried again, hating the begging tone creeping back into my voice. I'll pay you back. My father laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was dry, mirthless. With what, Helen? Your poetry? Your principles. He stood up, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease.
No.
No more money. No more bailouts. You want to live like a bohemian, go ahead. But don't come crawling back here when reality bites. Richard, maybe we could, my mother started. Diane. One word. That's all it took. My mother's mouth snapped shut like a trap. I felt something cracking inside me, something fundamental shifting. I'd been broke before. I'd been scared before. But I'd never felt this deep, bone-cold understanding that the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally had attached so many conditions I could barely breathe under the weight of them. You know what the sad thing is? I heard myself saying, my voice strange and distant. I didn't even want to come here. I told myself I'd figure it out on my own. But my landlord gave me 3 days, and I thought, just maybe, you might care more about your daughter being homeless than about what your friends think. Oh, spare us the dramatics, my father said, waving his hand dismissively. You won't be homeless. You'll do what you should have done months ago. You'll apologize to Jonathan Mercer, beg for your job back, and you'll grow up. I'd rather sleep in my car. Then I suppose that's what you'll do. He turned his back to me, facing the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked their manicured gardens. Graham. I didn't understand at first. Then I heard the footsteps. Graham, their head of security. A man I'd known since I was 16, who used to sneak me extra cookies from the kitchen, who taught me to drive in the estate's back driveway. He appeared in the doorway, his face carefully neutral, but I saw the apology in his eyes. Mr. Montgomery? Please escort Helen out. And Graham. My father still didn't turn around. She's not to be admitted to the property again without my express permission. The room tilted. The chandelier above seemed to swing, though it wasn't moving at all. Dad, I whispered. Daddy, please. He flinched. I saw his shoulders tense at the childhood name. For one brief, shining second, I thought I'd reached him. Then he straightened. Get this beggar out of my house. My mother made a small sound, quickly stifled. When I looked at her, desperate for any sign of maternal instinct, any crack in the ice, she turned her face away. Actually turned away, as if the sight of me was too much to bear. Graham's hand was gentle on my elbow, but it was still a hand guiding me toward the door, still the unmistakable feeling of being removed, expelled, cast out. I'm sorry, Miss Helen, he murmured, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. It's okay, I said automatically, though nothing was okay. Nothing would ever be okay again. The walk through the foyer felt eternal. Past the grand staircase I'd slid down as a child. Past the mirror where my mother had fixed my hair before my first dance. Past the table where Christmas presents used to pile up like promises. Out the door. Down the steps. Across the circular driveway where my father's Mercedes and my mother's Jaguar sat gleaming in the late afternoon sun. Graham released my arm at the gate. You take care of yourself, he said, and there was real warmth in his voice, real concern. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. The gate closed behind me with a soft click. Electronic. Expensive. Final. I stood there on the street, in front of the house I'd grown up in, the house I'd brought friends to, the house I'd always assumed would be home no matter what. My phone buzzed in my purse. Probably my landlord again. Or the electric company. Or the credit card company. The chorus of people I owed money to, the evidence of how thoroughly I'd failed at the life I was supposed to live. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking. But instead of another past due notice, I saw an email. The subject line made my breath catch. Urgent. Montgomery Trust Distribution Update. Action required within 24 hours. My grandmother's trust. I'd completely forgotten. My fingers fumbled as I opened it, and as I read the words, My knees went weak again, but this time from something else entirely. Something that felt like power. Because my grandmother, Eleanor Montgomery, who died 6 months ago, who'd always been the rebel of the family, who'd married for love instead of money and scandalized everyone, had apparently left me something. And, according to this email from her estate attorney, I was about to inherit $12 million. But there was a condition. There was always a condition. I had to go to the reading of a sealed letter, tomorrow at noon, at her attorney's office. And I had to go alone. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from a number I didn't recognize. Don't trust what they tell you tomorrow. Your grandmother's letter is not what you think. Meet me at Riverside Cafe tonight, 8 p.m. Come alone. I knew Eleanor. I know what she wanted. And it's not what Richard thinks. I looked up at my parents' house, at the warm lights glowing in the windows, at the life I was no longer welcome in. Then I looked back at my phone, at the mysterious message, at the promise of $12 million and the threat of another secret, another twist in a family that seemed to thrive on them. And I made a decision. But before I could take a step toward my car, I heard tires screech behind me. I turned just in time to see a black SUV pull up, windows tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. The back door opened, and stepping out, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my rent, was Marcus, my ex-boyfriend. The artist my father had just blamed for ruining my life. Except he didn't look like an artist anymore. He looked like money. "Hello, Helen," he said, and his smile was all wrong, too sharp, too knowing. "I think we need to talk about your grandmother's will. Before you do something you'll regret." The streetlights had started to flicker on, casting Marcus in alternating shadows and amber light. He looked different. Not just the suit, though that was jarring enough, but something in his posture, the way he held his shoulders back, the way his eyes tracked me with a calculating precision I'd never seen during the 2 years we'd been together. "How do you know about my grandmother's will?" The words came out steadier than I felt. Behind me, I could sense the house, my parents probably watching from some window, probably satisfied that I was exactly where they'd predicted I'd be, arguing with my mistake of a boyfriend on the street like trailer trash. Marcus glanced at the mansion, then back at me. "Can we not do this here? Get in the car, Helen. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." "You didn't answer my question." He sighed, and for just a second, I saw a flash of the old Marcus, the one who'd sigh the same way when I'd push him to talk about his feelings, his past, anything real. He'd been good at deflection then, too. I'd just been too infatuated to notice. "Your grandmother hired me," he said finally, 6 months before she died. That's how I know. The world seemed to tilt again, the same way it had inside when my father had called me a beggar. "Hired you? Hired you to do what? You're an artist. You paint. You painted murals of social justice themes on abandoned buildings. You." I lied. 2 words. Flat. Simple. Devastating. My mouth went dry. "What?" "Not about everything," he added quickly, holding up his hands like he was calming a spooked horse. "The art was real. My feelings for you were real. But the starving artist thing, the struggling to make rent, the whole bohemian lifestyle." He shrugged, and the gesture was so casual it made me want to scream. "That was research." Research. I repeated the word like it was foreign, like I was testing its weight and shape. Research for what? "Get in the car, Helen. Please. You're about to walk into something tomorrow that you're not prepared for, and I'm probably the only person who can help you. Why should I trust you? You just admitted you lied to me for 2 years." "Because your grandmother trusted me." He met my eyes, and there was something there, something urgent and almost afraid. "And because if you go to that reading tomorrow, without knowing what I know, Richard and Diane are going to destroy you. For real this time. Not just cutting you off. Not just humiliation. I mean legally, financially destroy you." A car passed, its headlights sweeping across us. I felt exposed, vulnerable, standing here with all my certainties crumbling like sand castles at high tide. 5 minutes, I heard myself say. Relief flooded his face. He opened the SUV's door wider, and I climbed in, every instinct screaming that this was stupid, that I was being stupid, that I was about to make everything worse. The interior smelled like leather and something else, something expensive and unfamiliar. Marcus slid in beside me, and the door closed with a solid, heavy thunk that made me think of vaults, of sealed rooms, of no escape. "Drive around the block," Marcus told the driver, a man I couldn't see clearly through the privacy partition. "Keep it slow." The SUV pulled away from the curb, away from my parents' house, and I watched it recede through the tinted window, getting smaller and smaller until we turned the corner, and it disappeared entirely. "Start talking," I said. Marcus loosened his tie, another gesture that felt practiced, like he'd been wearing ties his whole life and knew exactly how to make it look casual. "Your grandmother came to me through a mutual contact. Someone who knew I was good at getting close to people, at making them trust me." "You're a con artist." "I prefer investigative consultant, but sure, con artist works." He pulled out his phone, swiped through it, then handed it to me. "Read." It was an email, dated 8 months ago, from an address I recognized, Eleanor and Montgomery at montgomerytrust.com. My grandmother's personal email. "Mr. Kane." It read, and I stopped, staring at the name. "Kane?" I looked up at him. "Your last name isn't even real?" "It's real. Marcus Reeves was my mother's maiden name. I used it for the art world." "Keep reading." I forced my eyes back to the screen. "Mr. Kane, I have reviewed your credentials and the recommendation from Catherine Wells. I believe you are suited for a delicate task involving my granddaughter, Helen Jade Montgomery. She is currently employed at Mercer and Klein, but is deeply unhappy. I need someone who can authentically connect with her, understand her true values and character, and document her choices over the next 6 to 12 months. She must never know she's being observed. Your compensation will be substantial, and there will be a significant bonus if she makes the choice I'm hoping she will. Details to follow upon acceptance. Regards, Eleanor Montgomery." My hands started shaking. The phone nearly slipped from my grip. "Keep going," Marcus said quietly. "There's more." I scrolled down. Another email, this one from Marcus to my grandmother. "Mrs. Montgomery, I've made contact. Helen is exactly as you described, principled, intelligent, deeply conflicted about her career path. She's volunteering at the Riverside Community Center. I've established myself as a local artist. First conversation happened yesterday. She's cautious but curious. We'll proceed slowly. MC." There were dozens of them. A whole chain of correspondence, spanning months. Marcus reporting on me like I was a subject in some experiment. My grandmother responding with questions, guidance, adjustments to the plan. And then 3 weeks before she died, this one. Marcus, she quit her job. She chose her values over her parents' approval, over financial security, over everything I hoped she would choose over. Document everything about the protest. This is exactly what needs to be in the record. When the time comes, when she's at her lowest, when Richard and Diane have pushed her as far as they can, she'll need to know she's not crazy. She'll need proof that someone believed in her, that I believed in her. The will is finalized. Proceed to final phase. Eleanor. I couldn't breathe. The SUV suddenly felt too small, the air too thin. "Final phase," I whispered. "What was the final phase?" Marcus took the phone back gently. "Breaking up with you. Making it look like you'd lost everything, including the relationship. Your grandmother wanted you, at absolute rock bottom, when the will was read. She said it was the only way you'd understand what she was trying to teach you." Teach me? She hired someone to spy on me, to manipulate me, to break my heart, to teach me something? "To prove something," Marcus corrected. "That you're not like them. That when everything was stripped away, the money, the name, the safety net, you'd still choose integrity. She said your father would never believe it otherwise. That he'd fight the will, claim you were unstable, claim she was senile when she wrote it. But if there was documentation, evidence of your character, choices you made when you had no idea anyone was watching." My mind was racing, tripping over itself. The $12 million is real. But it's not all you're inheriting. Marcus leaned forward, his voice dropping. Helen, your grandmother was worth a lot more than 12 million. That's just what your parents know about. The trust your grandfather left her, the investments they tracked. But Eleanor had her own money. Old money from her family, money she'd been moving and hiding for years. Money her father thought was long gone. The SUV turned another corner. We were still circling the neighborhood, passing houses that all looked like different versions of my parents', each one a monument to wealth and propriety and perfectly maintained facades. How much? I asked. $97 million. Give or take. The number hung in the air between us, so large it seemed impossible, abstract. And she left it to me? Most of it. There are specific allocations, causes she wanted funded, organizations she wanted supported. But the bulk of it, yes. To you. On one condition. Of course. There was always a condition. What condition? Marcus hesitated, and that hesitation made my stomach drop. Marcus. What condition? You have to destroy your father's company. Completely. Within 1 year. If you don't, the entire estate goes to charity. You get nothing. I stared at him. You're joking. I've never been more serious. He pulled out another document, this one official-looking, heavy paper with gold embossing. This is a copy of the sealed letter you'll receive tomorrow. Your grandmother wanted me to prepare you, to make sure you understood before you walked into that room. I took the letter with numb fingers. My grandmother's handwriting, elegant and firm even near the end of her life. My dearest Helen Jade, it began, and my eyes immediately blurred with tears. You are reading this because you have passed the test I could never give you directly. You have chosen principle over comfort. You have chosen truth over acceptance. You have chosen to be yourself even when it cost you everything. Your father, my son, is not a bad man. But he is a man who has forgotten what matters. Montgomery Holdings has become a machine that devours the vulnerable and calls it progress. I have watched him foreclose on families, demolish communities, crush small businesses, all in the name of profit. I have watched him become exactly what my own father was, the man I spent my life trying to escape. I tried to talk to him. I tried to show him another way. He called me senile. He tried to have me declared incompetent when I started moving my assets. It was only through very clever legal maneuvering that I maintained control until my death. But you, my darling girl, you're different. You see people, not profit margins. You understand that wealth without conscience is simply organized greed. So here is my gift to you and my burden. I leave you the means to stop him. To dismantle Montgomery Holdings from the inside. To take the family name and make it mean something good again. In this envelope, you will find documentation of every illegal, immoral, and unethical practice Richard Montgomery has engaged in over the past 15 years. Tax evasion, bribery, fraud, displacement of protected tenants, violations of fair housing laws. Everything. You will also find controlling shares of Montgomery Holdings transferred to you upon my death through a series of shell corporations and trusts he knows nothing about. As of tomorrow, you will own 51% of your father's company. Use it, Helen. Burn it to the ground if you must. Rebuild it into something worthy. Or simply ensure it can never harm anyone again. If you cannot do this, if you choose family loyalty over justice, I will understand. But the money will go elsewhere, to people and organizations who will fight the battles you could not. You have 1 year. I believe in you. I always have. With all my love, Grandmother Eleanor. I read it twice. Then a third time. The words didn't change. This is insane, I finally said. She wants me to destroy my own father? She wants you to stop him, Marcus corrected. There's a difference. Is there? I looked up at him. This man I'd loved. This stranger I'd never really known. You knew about this the whole time. You knew what she was planning, what she wanted from me, and you just played your part. Yes. No deflection this time. No excuses. Just honesty, stark and clean. Did you care about me at all? Or was it all just the job? He was quiet for a long moment, his eyes searching my face. At first, it was the job. Your grandmother was paying me a lot of money to get close to you, to document your choices, to be there when you needed someone who understood your doubts about the corporate world. But Helen, he reached for my hand, then seemed to think better of it. Somewhere around month 3, it stopped being just a job. You were so genuine, so passionate about things that mattered. You reminded me why I got into this work in the first place, before it became just about the money. So you cared about me, but you still broke my heart? Still walked away when I needed you most. Because that's what your grandmother paid me to do. His voice was rough now, strained. She said you needed to face your parents alone. That you needed to hit bottom without anyone to catch you, so you'd know what it felt like. So when you had the power to do the same thing to others, you'd remember. You'd choose mercy. The SUV had circled back around. Through the window, I could see my parents' house again. Lights blazing, probably sitting down to dinner, probably relieved I was gone. "Stop the car," I said. "Helen." "Stop the car?" The driver pulled over. I fumbled with the door handle, my hands still shaking, my whole body trembling with adrenaline and rage, and something else, something that felt dangerously like hope. Marcus grabbed my arm. "Wait. There's something else you need to know." I can't process any more right now. I need to. The meeting tonight. The text you got from the unknown number. That wasn't from someone who knew your grandmother. His grip tightened. That was from your father's attorney. It's a trap. They know about the will, or at least they suspect. They're going to try to get you to sign something, probably claiming it's just paperwork for the $12 million, but it'll actually be a waiver of any claims to Eleanor's estate beyond that amount. My blood went cold. How do you know? Because I'm still on your grandmother's payroll, technically. Her estate lawyer is keeping me informed. He's the one who sent me here tonight. Marcus pulled out a business card, pressed it into my palm. This is him. James Chen. Trust him. Don't trust anyone else, especially not anyone your father sends. I looked down at the card. Simple. Elegant. An address downtown. The reading is at noon tomorrow, Marcus continued. Chen's office. He'll have the original letter, the documentation, everything. But Helen, you need to understand what's going to happen when this goes public. Your father will fight. Your mother will choose him over you, she always does. You'll be alone. I'm already alone, I said quietly. No, you're not. He released my arm. I know I don't have the right to say this, and I know you probably hate me right now, but if you decide to go through with this, to take on your father, to actually try to dismantle Montgomery Holdings, I want to help. Not for the money. For real this time. I met his eyes, looking for the lie, for the angle, for the con. But all I saw was something that looked like regret, and maybe, just maybe, something genuine. I don't know if I can trust you, I said. I know. I don't blame you. He sat back, putting distance between us. But the offer stands. Think about it. I opened the door, stepped out into the cool evening air. My phone buzzed again, in my purse. Probably the fake meeting text, probably my father's people trying to spring their trap. But I also had James Chen's card. I had Marcus's confession. I had my grandmother's letter burning in my mind like a brand. And I had a choice. I could show up at that cafe tonight, walk into whatever trap was waiting. I could sign away my grandmother's legacy for the simple gift of $12 million and the slight possibility of someday reconciling with my parents. Or I could disappear tonight. Lay low. Show up at James Chen's office tomorrow and walk out with the nuclear option, with $97 million and the power to destroy everything my father had built. I started walking toward my car, a beat-up Honda Civic that was older than some of my college interns had been, parked 2 blocks away where my parents wouldn't have to look at it. Behind me, I heard the SUV pull away. Marcus, disappearing back into whatever shadows he'd crawled out of. My phone rang. Not a text this time. An actual call. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Then something, some instinct, made me swipe to accept. Hello? Helen Montgomery? A woman's voice, crisp and professional. Yes. This is Sandra Mitchum from Riverside Community Center. I'm so sorry to call you like this. I know it's late, but we have an emergency. There's been a fire. The building is. Her voice cracked. It's gone, Helen. Everything's gone. And the preliminary investigation suggests it was arson. Someone deliberately burned it down. The world stopped. The community center. The kids I'd been teaching. The families who depended on it. The place I'd been arrested protecting just 3 weeks ago. When? I managed to ask. 2 hours ago. The fire department just got it under control. Helen, the police want to talk to you. Apparently, someone saw a black Mercedes leaving the scene right before the fire started. They got a partial plate, and she hesitated. It matches your father's company fleet. My father's car. At the community center. Right before it burned. 2 hours ago. Right around the time I'd been on my knees in his foyer, begging for help. Are you sure? My voice sounded distant, like it was coming from underwater. The police are reviewing security footage from nearby businesses now. But Helen, there's more. The fire started in the records room. All the documentation about the families who lived in the buildings Morrison Development was trying to acquire, all the proof of their tenancy rights, the rent control protections, everything we'd been gathering for the lawsuit, it's all gone. Richard Morrison. My mother's godson. The man my father wanted me to date. The developer who'd been trying to demolish the community center for months. I looked back at my parents' house, at the warm glow of the windows, at the life I'd been born into and then expelled from. And suddenly, my grandmother's letter didn't seem insane at all. It seemed necessary. Helen, are you still there? I'm here, I said, my voice steady now, cold and clear as ice. Tell the police I'll come in tomorrow morning to give a statement. And Sandra? Start making a list of everything the center needs. Buildings, supplies, staff, everything. Can you do that for me? Yes, but Helen, we don't have the funds to rebuild. The insurance will cover some of it, but with the investigation, it could be months before we see anything, and even then. Just make the list, I said. Trust me. I ended the call and stood there on the sidewalk, watching the last light fade from the sky. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear sirens. Always sirens in this city. Always some emergency, some crisis, some wound that needed tending. My phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number, the trap my father's people had set. Running late? We're waiting for you at Riverside Cafe. This is time-sensitive, Helen. Your grandmother's estate won't wait. I typed back. I'm not coming, and you can tell Richard Montgomery that I'll see him in court. I deleted the thread, then pulled up my recent calls and found Marcus's number from when we were together. He answered on the first ring. Helen, the community center burned down tonight. 2 hours ago. My father's car was seen leaving the scene. Silence. Then, Jesus Christ. I need you to do something for me. Can you get in touch with James Chin tonight? I need to move up the meeting. I can't wait until noon tomorrow. He's not going to want to do the reading without proper. Marcus. I cut him off. My father just committed arson to destroy evidence that would have stopped his business partner from displacing 200 families. He called me a beggar and had me physically removed from his house. And somewhere in that mansion right now, he and my mother are probably having dinner, probably drinking wine, probably not giving a single thought to the community center or the families or me. I'm done waiting. I'm done being patient. I'm done being the good daughter who takes the abuse and hopes for scraps of affection. Get me that meeting tonight, or I'm going to walk into the nearest news station and tell them everything, with or without the documentation to back it up. Another pause. Then, give me 20 minutes. I'll call you back. He hung up. I walked to my car, each step feeling heavier and lighter at the same time. Heavy with what I was about to do. Light with the certainty that I was finally making a choice that felt right. My Honda started with its usual reluctant sputter. I sat there for a moment, hands on the wheel, looking at the fuel gauge hovering just above empty, at the check engine light that had been on for 3 months, at all the evidence of how thoroughly I'd fallen from grace. Tomorrow, all of this would change. Tomorrow, I would either be the richest woman I knew, or I'd be completely cut off, with nothing but my principles and my beat-up car and whatever dignity I could salvage. But tonight, I was still Helen Jade Montgomery, 31 years old, broke, heartbroken, and furious. My phone rang. Marcus. Chin will see you in 1 hour. His office. He's not happy about it, but I told him about the fire. He agrees that things are accelerating faster than your grandmother anticipated. Thank you. Helen, be careful. If your father is willing to burn down a community center, there's no telling what else he might do to protect his empire. I thought about that. Really thought about it. My father, who'd looked me in the eye and called me a beggar. My mother, who'd turned away rather than defend me. These people who'd raised me, who I'd loved, who I'd tried so hard to please. I'll be careful, I said. But Marcus? I'm not backing down. I know. That's what worries me. I drove downtown, through streets I'd walked as a child, past restaurants where my family had celebrated birthdays and anniversaries, past the theater where I'd seen my first play, past all the landmarks of a life that had seemed so secure and permanent and real. The city looked different now. Or maybe I was different. Maybe I'd always been different, and I was just finally admitting it. James Chen's office was in one of the older buildings downtown, the kind with marble lobbies and brass fixtures, and an elevator that required an operator. The kind of building that whispered old money, established power, the weight of generations. The night operator, an elderly man who looked like he'd been running this elevator since the building opened, took me to the 14th floor without comment. As if beautiful women in jeans and threadbare jackets showed up for emergency meetings with estate attorneys all the time. The doors opened directly into a reception area. Expensive, but understated. A woman in her 50s sat at the desk, even though it was nearly 9 o'clock. Ms. Montgomery, she asked, standing. Yes. Mr. Chun is waiting for you in the conference room. This way, please. She led me down a hallway lined with photographs of the city from different eras. The building of bridges. The raising of skyscrapers. The evolution of the skyline. Progress, they seemed to say. Change is inevitable. We stopped at a heavy wooden door. She knocked twice, then opened it. The conference room was all dark wood and leather chairs, with windows that looked out over the city lights. At the head of the table sat a man in his early 60s, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, wearing a suit that had probably cost more than my monthly rent. And standing by the window, looking out at the city, was Marcus. Ms. Montgomery, James Chin said, standing and extending his hand. I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. Your grandmother was a remarkable woman. I was honored to serve as her attorney. I shook his hand. His grip was firm, businesslike. Thank you for seeing me on such short notice. Given the events of this evening, I think Eleanor would have approved of the urgency. He gestured to a chair. Please sit. We have a great deal to discuss. I sat. Marcus turned from the window but remained standing, as if he wasn't sure whether he belonged in this room or not. Chin opened a leather portfolio, pulled out a thick envelope with my name written across it in my grandmother's handwriting. Normally, we would do this tomorrow, in the presence of witnesses, with proper documentation and recording. But Mr. Kane has informed me of the fire at Riverside Community Center and the potential involvement of your father's company. If Richard Montgomery is willing to commit arson, then we need to move quickly to protect Eleanor's wishes. He pushed the envelope across the table to me. Inside, you'll find the letter Mr. Kane showed you earlier, along with extensive documentation of your father's business practices. Eleanor spent the last 5 years of her life compiling this information. Tax records, internal memos, emails, recorded conversations. Everything you would need to pursue legal action against Montgomery Holdings. My hands trembled as I picked up the envelope. It was heavy. Final. You'll also find, Chin continued, documentation of the share transfers. As of 6 p.m. today, when the final trust provisions activated upon the completion of the probate waiting period, you became the majority shareholder of Montgomery Holdings. Your father currently believes he owns 62% of the company. In reality, he owns 49%. You own 51%. How? I asked. How did she do this without him knowing? Very carefully, very slowly. Over many years. Chun pulled out another document. Eleanor began transferring shares into various trusts and shell corporations 15 years ago. Small amounts at first. 1% here, 0.5% there. Always structured as charitable donations or estate planning. Richard never questioned it because it looked like exactly what a wealthy woman of her age should be doing, securing her legacy, avoiding estate taxes. But she was really building a majority stake for me.
Precisely.
And she did it so gradually, through so many different vehicles, that your father's legal team never noticed the pattern. By the time they might have, it was too late. The shares were legally transferred, irrevocably placed in trusts that would activate upon her death. I looked down at the envelope, at my name in my grandmother's elegant script. Why me? Why not just leave it to charity? Why make me the one who has to destroy my own father? Chen's expression softened slightly. She left a video. Would you like to see it? I nodded, not trusting my voice. He pulled out a laptop, opened it, pressed play. And there she was. My grandmother, Eleanor Montgomery, sitting in what I recognized as her private study, the one with the view of the rose garden. She looked frail. This was clearly recorded near the end, but her eyes were still sharp, still fierce. "Hello, my darling girl," she began, and I felt tears spring to my eyes immediately. "If you're watching this, then I'm gone, and you're about to make the most important decision of your life. I know what I'm asking of you seems cruel. Your father is still your father. Diane is still your mother. The idea of destroying their livelihood, their reputation, their legacy, it must feel monstrous. But Helen, I need you to understand something. I tried. For years, I tried to change him, to show him that wealth without compassion is just another form of poverty. I tried to convince him that the Montgomery name could mean something good, something that helped people instead of crushing them. He laughed at me. He called me a sentimental old woman. And when I threatened to cut him out of my will, he had his attorneys try to have me declared incompetent. My own son tried to have me locked away so he could control my money. That's when I knew I couldn't save him. But maybe, just maybe, I could save you. And maybe you could save all the people he's hurt. I'm not asking you to destroy him out of revenge, Helen. I'm asking you to stop him. To take the power he's abused and use it for good. To prove that our family name can still mean something worth preserving. You'll lose them. I won't lie to you. When you do this, when you take control of Montgomery Holdings and start undoing Richard's work, he will never forgive you. Diane will choose him. She always does. You will be alone. But darling, you're already alone. They've already abandoned you. I watched it happen, watched them chip away at your spirit, trying to reshape you into their image. And I watched you refuse. I watched you choose integrity over approval. That's why I know you're the right person for this burden. Because it is a burden, Helen. $97 million sounds like freedom, but it comes with responsibility. The responsibility to do what's right, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I love you. I have always loved you. And I believe in you. Make me proud. The screen went dark. I sat there, tears streaming down my face, unable to speak. Chen gave me a moment, then quietly slid a box of tissues across the table. "There's one more thing," he said gently. "The condition about destroying Montgomery Holdings within 1 year, it's not quite as simple as it sounds. You don't have to literally destroy the company. What Eleanor wanted was for you to transform it. To remove your father from power, to restructure its practices, to turn it into something that builds up communities instead of tearing them down. That's the spirit of the condition." "But if I can't?" I asked, wiping my eyes. "If he fights me, if I can't get control, if the company fights back?" Then the estate goes to a list of charitable organizations Eleanor selected. Organizations that fight against the very practices Montgomery Holdings engages in. So either way, Richard's empire ends. The only question is whether you're the one who ends it and what you build in its place. I looked at Marcus. "Did you know about the video?"
No.
"Eleanor kept some things even from me. I think she wanted to make sure some parts of this were just between the two of you." I opened the envelope, pulled out the thick stack of documents inside. Page after page of evidence. Financial records showing bribes paid to city officials. Emails discussing ways to force out protected tenants. Internal memos about cutting corners on safety inspections. A systemic pattern of corruption and cruelty, all in the pursuit of profit. My father's legacy laid bare. There's enough here to put him in prison, I said, flipping through the pages. Yes, Chen confirmed. That's not what Eleanor wanted, for what it's worth. She wanted rehabilitation, not punishment. But she also wanted you to have leverage. The choice of what to do with this information, it's yours. I closed the folder, sat back in my chair, and stared out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, my father was probably sleeping peacefully. My mother was probably reading before bed, her nightly routine unchanged. They had no idea that everything was about to collapse. Somewhere out there, families were displaced, communities were scattered, lives were upended, all so my father could add more zeros to his net worth. And somewhere out there, the Riverside Community Center was still smoldering, its ashes a monument to how far my father would go to protect his interests. I'll do it, I said quietly. Helen, Marcus started. I'll do it, I repeated, louder this time, stronger. Not just because of the money. Not just because my grandmother wanted me to, but because it's right. Because someone has to stop him. And apparently, that someone is me. Chen nodded slowly. Then we should discuss strategy. Montgomery Holdings has a board meeting scheduled for next week. That would be the ideal time to make your move, to reveal your controlling stake and call for new leadership. No, I said. Tomorrow. I want to do it tomorrow. Tomorrow? Helen, that's not enough time to prepare, to line up support, to... Tomorrow, I insisted. He burned down a community center tonight.
Who knows what he'll do next?
How many more people will he hurt while we're carefully planning the perfect strategy?
No.
Tomorrow. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app with shaking hands, and I looked at my accounts. Checking, $143.27. Savings, $0. Credit card, maxed out. The material evidence of my complete and utter failure at the life my parents had planned for me. Then I opened my email, found the message from Chen's office about the trust distribution, and I clicked the link. A new screen loaded. Account balance, $97,247,651.32. $97 million. More money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. More money than most people could imagine. And all of it mine, if I was willing to do what my grandmother asked. If I was willing to destroy my father. I looked up at Chen and Marcus, these 2 men who knew my grandmother's secrets, who'd helped orchestrate this moment. I need you both to help me, I said. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to walk into my father's office. And I'm going to take his company away from him. Can you make that happen? Chen and Marcus exchanged a glance. It's risky, Chen said. Without proper preparation, he could challenge the transfer, tie things up in court for years. But it's possible?
Yes.
It's possible. Then let's do it. I stood up, feeling something shift inside me, something fundamental and irreversible. And after I take the company, I'm going to rebuild the Riverside Community Center. And I'm going to make sure every single family that was displaced by Montgomery Holdings gets their homes back. And I'm going to turn my father's empire into something that actually helps people instead of crushing them. That's a tall order, Marcus said, but he was smiling slightly. You really think you can pull it off? I thought about my grandmother, about the years she'd spent planning this moment. I thought about the kids at the community center who'd lost their safe space. I thought about all the families my father had destroyed in his quest for profit. And I thought about myself, kneeling on my parents' marble floor, begging for scraps while they called me a beggar. I don't know, I admitted, but I'm going to try. And I'm not going to stop trying until either Montgomery Holdings is transformed or I've used every penny of this money fighting them. Chen began gathering documents. Then we have a long night ahead of us. We need to file the necessary paperwork, prepare the legal documentation, brief you on corporate procedures, and most importantly, prepare you for the fight your father is going to put up. He's going to be vicious, Marcus warned. When he realizes what's happening, he's not going to hold back. He'll attack you publicly, personally. He'll try to destroy your credibility, claim you're unstable, unfit. Are you ready for that? I thought about the fire. The community center reduced to ash. The families who'd lost their gathering place, their support system. The kids I'd been teaching, now with nowhere to go. I'm ready, I said. We worked through the night. Chun explaining corporate procedures, filing emergency motions, preparing documentation. Marcus coaching me on what to expect, how my father would react, where he'd strike first. At 3 a.m., Chun finally sat back. It's done. The paperwork is filed. As of this morning, when the markets open, you'll officially be the majority shareholder. The board will be notified. Your father will be notified. And then all hell will break loose. Good, I said. Marcus drove me home as dawn broke over the city. We didn't talk much. What was there to say? At my apartment building, he walked me to the door. For what it's worth, he said, I think Eleanor chose the right person. And Helen? I really am sorry. For all of it. I looked at him, this man who'd lied to me, manipulated me, broken my heart on someone else's orders. I know, I said. And Marcus? Thank you. For tonight. For helping. He nodded and walked away. I climbed the stairs to my apartment, unlocked the door, and sat on my threadbare couch. In a few hours, everything would change. In a few hours, I would destroy my father's world. I pulled out my phone one last time, opened my banking app with shaking hands. $97,247,651.32. The number still didn't feel real, but the choice ahead of me did. I looked at my father's last text from yesterday, still sitting unread. You made your choice, Helen. Live with it. I typed back. I will. Starting today. Then I closed my eyes and waited for morning. The elevator doors opened on the executive floor at exactly 9 a.m. My father stood in the hallway, flanked by his lawyers. He'd been waiting. Helen. His voice was ice. I got the notification. This is insane. Mother was senile when she wasn't, I interrupted. And you know it. Your own doctors certified her competent 3 months before she died. You tried to have her declared unfit and failed. It's in the court records. His jaw clenched. The board will never support this. You're a child playing dress-up. The board meeting starts in 10 minutes. Let's find out. I walked past him into the boardroom. 15 faces turned toward me. Men in expensive suits who'd made fortunes alongside my father. Men who'd looked the other way while he crushed families and burned down community centers. Gentlemen, I said, taking my grandmother's seat at the table. I'm Helen Montgomery, and as of 6 a.m. this morning, I own 51% of this company. I'm calling an immediate vote for new leadership. Chaos erupted. My father's lead attorney jumped up. This is highly irregular. Ms. Montgomery has no experience, no. I have controlling shares. I cut him off. And I have evidence that the current CEO committed arson last night. Evidence I'll release to prosecutors unless this board acts immediately to remove him. I slid folders across the table. Each one contained photos of my father's car at the community center. Police reports. Fire marshal findings. The board members went pale. This is blackmail, my father hissed. This is consequences, I replied. You have 2 choices, Dad. Resign now, retire quietly with your reputation intact. Or fight me, and I release 15 years of documented crimes to every prosecutor and news outlet in the state. Bribery.
Fraud.
Illegal evictions. Tax evasion. All of it. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone and showed him Chen's number, ready to dial. Try me. The room went silent. My father stared at me, really seeing me for the first time in years. Not the disappointing daughter. Not the beggar. But the woman with the power to end him. You destroy your own family, he said quietly. You destroyed it first, I answered. I'm just making sure you can't hurt anyone else. He looked around the table at his board, his allies, his empire. Then back at me. I resign, he said. Effective immediately. The vote was unanimous. 3 months later, I stood at the groundbreaking ceremony for the new Riverside Community Center. Bigger. Better. Fully funded. Marcus stood beside me. Your grandmother would be proud. I hope so. My phone buzzed. My mother. The first contact since that day. Your father had a heart attack. He's stable. I thought you should know. I stared at the message, waiting to feel something.
Guilt.
Regret. Vindication. Instead, I just felt sad. I typed back. I'm glad he's okay. If he needs anything, let me know.
She didn't respond.
I looked out at the construction site, at the community coming together, at the children playing where Ash had been. You okay? Marcus asked. Yeah, I said, and meant it. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I opened my banking app one last time. $89,641,290.47. Millions spent. Millions more to spend. My father had called me a beggar. He was right. I was begging for change. For justice. For a world where the Montgomery name meant something good. And with one click, with one choice at a time, I was making it happen.